I'm actually muted. You can't hear me at all. That is hilarious. I'm doing all that talking. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to Making Learning Addictive. This is your host, Brian Romero Smith. Technical difficulty. It's a Monday. That's for real. It is a Monday, and I was crazy to actually schedule all of this after a Father's Day weekend and Juneteenth at the same time. My kids spoiled me to death for Father's Day. I had a great time. So happy belated Father's Day to our fathers that are out there that are listening. I'm worn out from the love that my kids were able to share. I also did a 5K, for Juneteenth. So I'm a little tired, a little worn out, but I am ready, so ready for ISTE. This will be my first since the pandemic, of course. Done all the virtual stuff, but it's not the same, as face to face. So this will be an opportunity for all of us to get down to New Orleans, or however you say it, New Orleans, Nolans, NOLA, whatever you say. It's going to be a great time. So this week is really dedicated to give you a preview, of what to expect with certain sessions that you'll actually get a chance to experience while you are at ISTE. For those that know us as Passoscope EDU, what we like to do is provide a people's perspective of what happens at the conference for those that are there and for those that are not there. That's our Not at ISTE group. So regardless, go ahead and make sure you follow the hashtag PassoscopeEDU or the Not at ISTE Passcope to find out what's going on during the conference. But as I said, for this week, we're going to be talking to some presenters about what they're going to be delivering while they're at the conference, so you can actually start putting your schedule together for the conference. It is very important. So this week, we're also going to talk about some things that are important in preparation for ISTE. So we'll talk about the first-time ISTE goers, the introvert conference goer. We'll spread that out each day, each week. But tonight, we're also going to give you some highlights or the best things to look for ISTE. And I'll start there. Like for me, the best thing about conferences like this, and I have a top three, and they kind of go together. Of course, the learning. There's a ton of learning to take place at ISTE. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of sessions that are taking place. And it's a la carte, you get a chance to feed on what you're most interested in, what interests you the most, what you're actually working on, whatever the case may be. There's a ton of learning that goes on. But I like to take it a little bit further. Once you actually get to learning, begin to network. One of the great things about ISTE is building your professional learning network at this conference, connecting with people who are like-minded, who are not like-minded, who have something that you can actually glean from. Whatever the case is, build that professional learning network at this particular conference, because you'll have plenty of time to do that. And then lastly, as you begin to network, the relationships are probably the most impactful for me. You walk away with these wonderful, real life experiences from people that you know on Twitter, on Instagram, or on TikTok, whatever the case is, and you finally get a chance to see them in real life. You get a chance to get them a hug, because if you're comfortable, you can give them a hug, whatever the case is. But these are the opportunities to create lasting relationships with people at conferences like this. So those are my top three. Very interested in what your top three are, experiences that you have at a conference like this. We'll talk about that on Twitter throughout the week, but we're going to go ahead and get started. And we're going to introduce our first guest tonight, who's going to talk about all the the sessions that she is actually going to be presenting. I just give you a little taste here. We're going to be talking to Miss Raina. She's actually going to be talking about 10 ways to engage readers, bringing authors into your classroom. We see a lot of that taking place here on Twitter, talking to authors, but how do we bring them into our classroom? I'm anxious to hear about that. Melting away your classroom walls with, I'm assuming that's your co-presenter with Heidi McGregor. And then spice up your professional life with Wakelet. I think Wakelet just had an event or is having an event coming up. So we'll get a chance to talk to Raina about that, like right now. What's going on, Raina? How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I am fantastic. So Before we could jump into your sessions,
Yep.
tell the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you hail from.
Sure. So I'm Dr. Raina Friedman. I teach fifth grade in Mansfield, Massachusetts, and I've taught grades 3 and 4 by choice. I'm also a stage 3B colon cancer survivor. So anyone listening, got to check those colons. And I actually have been attending ISTE since 2014 in Atlanta, and I've been presenting since 2015.
Awesome. It's just snuck the colon thing in there,
I had to.
real quick. It is okay. Yeah.
It comes right out.
No pun intended, right?
Hmm. None.
All right. Well, actually, you teach my favorite, grade level. For the majority of my time, I taught fifth grade.
Yeah, a lot
Loved
of
it.
magic happens at that age.
Yes. So, like what?
I mean, the kids are trying to figure out who they are,
Yep.
right? But like,
Right.
I feel really fortunate to work where I work because my kids blog and podcast and
Yep.
just we have our last day of school tomorrow and we're doing presentation palooza and they're all excited to present their Google sites they made. Like
Okay.
that excitement of like still going to school is there, that zest for life is still there. But
Yeah.
what I particularly love about fifth grade is my students think they're secret agents training for the student sector of the FBI, and everyone has an agent number and they like buy into this and everything's tied into investigation. I don't think I could do that with like
Mm,
ninth, 10th graders, but my
mm.
secret agents who are ninth and 10th graders come back to ask me what their agent number was to see if I
Oh,
still
that is
remember.
so dope. I wish I would have thought of that. That's dope. I love that.
Hmm.
I love that. Wow. Okay. Now you mentioned something that's dear to my heart.
Yep.
Podcasting and
Yep.
blogging. We were doing that as a way of assessing their understanding, but also a freedom of expression.
Yep.
To articulate what they were thinking through the learning process. I love that. So, do you make your student blogs and podcast public?
Yeah, they are. My kids have a public blog and a public podcast. And they get to blog about anything they want. They have 2 blogs due a month, and it goes through the whole writing process. Pretty simple in a
Mhm.
Google Doc. And then due to data privacy, I always think it's important to mention that
Yeah,
I copy and paste their blogs and put it in my own blog, so that way
gotcha.
they're not actually using the tools. The tools they're using are pretty safe. And then same thing with the podcast. We actually use Screencastify for them to
Okay.
record, and we strip. I had to teach them how to strip the audio from it,
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Hmm.
we pull the audio. But many, many years ago, we have a Wordly Wise vocabulary book, and I really didn't want to, I guess I can say it, waste the taxpayers' dollars on a book. And to me, it's more important that they learn the words. So
Amen.
we came up with a podcast where we have 6 groups going, and they have to use 15 of the 30 words that we like learn about over the course of like a couple of weeks in their podcast. But they have to come up with the podcast theme,
Hmm.
so that means they really need to understand the words to come up with something. But they've
Yeah.
gone as far as like interviewing the art teacher. We just had a group talk about Ukraine and Russia. Like it's not just like, what am I doing today? Like they
Right.
actually need
Right.
to think big about it.
No, I love it. You almost make me wish that I was back in the classroom. Almost.
Well, if you ever want to come and talk about podcasting with a group of podcasters, I have a
Hey.
group.
Oh, call me. I do that often, so I would love to do that with your kids as well.
Hence
That'd be
melting
great.
away the classroom walls, the session 2 and my ISTE sessions. But yeah, that's great.
Well, let's go ahead and get into your session since you mentioned
Sure.
that one first here. So I thought I had it up here. There we
Yep,
go.
that's a poster. Yep. With that I'm doing with my good friend Heidi McGregor. So I am past president of MassQ, and Heidi is the upcoming. She will be. She's president elect of MassQ.
Okay.
MassQ is the Massachusetts ISTE affiliate, actually, for organizations here. And we actually run a large conference. We are the only stadium run conference in the country. So if anyone ever wants to come see Gillette Stadium, that's where we run our EdTech conference.
You run it in Gillette?
Yeah, we do.
Seriously?
Yep. And I'm one of the co-conference chairs. I went back to running it. Yeah.
I don't I don't
We're there in October. So we took 2 years of virtual, similar to what ISTE
Okay.
did. And now we're jumping
Uh-huh.
back in person in October.
I don't think I knew that at
Hmm.
all. Okay.
Yep.
I might have to make an East Coast trip.
Yep. And if you ever want to present, we just did the slate for this October, but we start in usually March of the following year. for the slate for the following October. But yeah, Heidi and I got together. Heidi is actually she works more in like STEM integration and makerspace and tech integration
Hmm.
in Littleton, and I'm in Mansfield, and we single-handedly have really broken away classroom walls for kids in the sense of like seeking out opportunities, whether it's STEM related, ELA related, to get people into our classrooms that even if it's virtual that we might not, or to provide experiences for kids that they wouldn't necessarily have, like a tour of the iRobot. Like if anyone doesn't know this, iRobot offers like office tours virtually. You can sign up, they do a whole thing with robots and STEM and coding, and then take the kids around. We did the Amazon has a great education section in their website, and you're able to do a whole Amazon tour, so the kids learn from the time you open up the website to the time the box reaches your house, who's involved and what happened,
Oh, now that's awesome.
which
You
is
can.
really neat. Yeah, we've done a lot with like other classes around the globe through Flipgrid and
Yeah.
some other opportunities. So we're going to be talking about different ways that you can literally melt away your classroom walls, because why should we be defined by them anymore?
Yeah. So you're right. So that's one reason why that's so important.
Yep.
Let the audience know some other reasons why it is important to tear down these walls that we sometimes stifle ourselves within, when it comes to teaching our kids globally.
Well, and I think kids need to have a global voice, right? They
Yeah.
need to realize that they have the power to change the world, to seek out opportunities, and to really be empowered. And I think providing these experiences does that. Like, not everybody needs to go to a 4-year college. Like, that stereotype is gone. Like, you can go into a trade, you can go into a business. Like, you don't necessarily need the 4-year institution to get to where you need. And I
That's
think,
right.
especially living on the East Coast, like, you hear college, 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 and it's not for everyone, right?
Hmm.
So these kids will be exposed to different types of things, to, if they want to do those, learning the past from the people who did it.
Got
Right.
it.
So like Skype a scientist, having a scientist come in. I mean, we got to watch a dissection of an earthworm. I mean, I wouldn't be touching that thing. And like it was up close, right? With like a magnifier and a dot camera on the
Uh-huh.
smart board. So like kids really need these opportunities,
Yeah.
especially coming off the pandemic where they didn't have a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
So they need to know that there's people out there that do these great things, and exposure,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
They're only kids are only exposed to what their teachers know and
Right.
what their parents or families or guardians
Yeah.
do or show them.
Yeah.
But I don't know everything, and I'm not afraid to tell kids that. But I have no problem bringing someone in who does know.
Love it. Love it. We used to call them exposure expeditions.
Yeah,
That's
similar
what
to
we used to
that.
do. Yes. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. All right. So
And
that's
then there's so many things that like we think is obvious to us to do, but other people have no idea it exists, right?
right.
Like that iRobot tour might be really cool to a science teacher, and they had no clue it existed. So at least if we can share these things, maybe we'll be able to have other students benefit from these experiences as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I like, I hadn't thought about the Amazon tour, but there's so many things that you can tie into what
Oh
you're
yeah.
actually teaching at the fifth grade level
Well, and
specifically.
they send a whole curriculum guide before you do it. Like
Okay.
they
That's
send
good.
all these things you could do with the kids.
Yeah. The relevancy to that is outstanding. I love that idea.
Yep.
Definitely have to peek that out.
Well, and they show you what happens when something doesn't go right.
Ah. Okay. I want to know about the garage key technology. I keep forgetting to turn that off, but I'm sitting here working, I work from home and I hear the garage door open. I'm just like, I'm right here. Just give it to me. Don't go into my garage. I
Yep.
had to put an extra lock on my garage door because of it. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. All right, so that's one of your sessions. Now
Yep.
I'm a huge believer, in that. But you've got another one,
Yep. I
10
offer
ways to
one.
engage readers. Uh, I think especially this day and age where we're talking unfortunately about the negativity within books.
Yep.
But as we dive into being able to see oneself within literature, I think speaking to specific authors is very, very key.
Yep.
So you're gonna be presenting this by yourself.
Yeah, I'm talking about 10 different ways to do that. And I actually really got started in it. I'm very fortunate where I live. I live literally around the corner from Peter Reynolds, who wrote Ish and The Dot and other
Okay.
books about creativity, but he
Yeah.
owns a local bookstore here in Dedham. I also live about 20, 25 minutes away from Jeff Kinney's bookstore, who wrote the Wimpy Kid books. He opened a bookstore in an old mill called The Unlikely Story, and both of them have always had authors come in, pre-pandemic and even now and virtually, getting kids to talk to authors, hear the process of the book. I mean, I saw Scott Magoon a couple weeks ago, and he's so amazing because he just wrote a graphic novel and did everything in Procreate on his iPad. Which, like, you
Uh,
tell a kid, like, here's this app that this graphic novelist used, you could learn to use this.
uh-huh,
Like,
uh-huh.
that just is so mind blowing for kids. But there's different things that you can do besides like going to the bookstores to get authors in. So
Mm.
I'm excited to be able to talk about 10 different ways to connect with authors, even if it's through video or virtual things. It doesn't just have to be like, I guess I've had authors physically come in,
Yeah.
and there's programs that schools can buy or PTO, and there's other authors who donate their time to do things. So there's a lot of opportunities there for kids that a
Mhm,
lot of teachers don't know about. Like, kids need mentors. I could talk about that for years.
mhm. You live in a very connected area.
I do. But also it takes one to go out, like you said, ISTE, right? The
Yeah.
connections and the
Yes.
people.
That's
I've
where you
had
make it
to
happen.
go out and do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then you never know what kind of opportunities it brings to you, right? A lot of the authors I've connected with write about some strong SEL ties, with characters with
Mm,
anxiety, OCD, like things you don't necessarily see in a middle grade book, but yet I'd love to be able to put these
mhm,
books in. Alec Genos came around when he wrote George, which was one of the first books about a fourth grade transgendered student.
mhm.
So to be able to talk to a kid who's going through that and put a book in, that child's hand, these books do things. I mean, my kids are obsessed with Jason Reynolds. I mean, the things that man has put out for learners with his Library of Congress and the Right
Uh-huh.
is unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So how do yeah, so fifth grade. So
Yep,
when I taught, I had certain groups that did not, enjoy reading,
yep,
period. All right. And typically when someone came in that talked about a topic, like I'm speaking of an author, talked about a topic that they
yep,
were interested in, it created a spark, for them to want to learn a little bit more.
yep.
Do you see that happening when you bring in authors in your classroom?
I do, because when Ellie Swartz came in a couple weeks ago, we read her
You're
book.
just name dropping all over the place.
Sorry,
You good? You
dear
good?
student. Well, I like to talk about
I
what
love it. I love it.
you gotta name the people. They deserve the credit, right?
Absolutely.
When
Absolutely.
Ellie came in a couple weeks ago, she wrote Dear Student, which I read aloud, and my some of my students really resonated with it, but after she left, every book she's written was taken from my library, right?
Love
Or
it.
like we did a lot of work with Jason Reynolds' poem For Everyone, and we just read Kevin Carroll's Rules of the Red Rubber Ball. If you have not seen or read, you have to Google For Everyone and watch him perform it in his YouTube video.
Okay.
It is something like, it is just jaw dropping, just how he's put that together. But we do a whole DEI unit study using that and the Rules of the Red Rubber Ball by Kevin Carroll. But my kids are reading Jason's books, like the ones with the singular names, or the stamped from the beginning that he did with Ibram Kendi. So
Mm-hmm.
even just talking about them, some kids listening, and they're going to go ask where that book is. And I really believe that if you have one kid ask, then I've done what I needed to do.
So do you deal with, I mean, you mentioned a very, very important book.
Yep.
Stamped
Mhm.
is a very, very important
I
book that I
have the
think that
middle grade version
everyone
of it.
should read. Do you get any pushback?
No. And I have a huge classroom library, and I think that's why my kids love to read so much. And I'm well versed in that library. But
Okay.
no,
I'm glad to hear that. You know,
I'm
you,
also very open and talk about these things. So I think if any parent doesn't want their kid to be talking about what the word oppression means, then I am not the right room for that child. They can request to move their child before the year starts.
yeah. Okay.
Before the year starts, I send home a pretty extensive Google slide with like links, like buttons to things.
Okay.
And I kind of call if this is too much for you now, then you might want to leave before we get started.
Gotcha.
in a nice way.
Well, yes, but I think that's important.
And I communicate everything to home. So if things came up, I would let families know. But no, I haven't received any pushback. And
Uh,
I last year I had the first transgendered male in the district that was open about it, and we talked about that stuff from day one. And I that was when we were remote, right? You have parents in the background looking like this. So I went down to the office and I said, listen, this is what we talked about, and you just might need to be aware in case a parent calls. But honestly,
right. Get ahead of it for real.
yeah. So
Okay.
knock on wood, not yet, but we're in Massachusetts, so
Yeah. Hmm.
we don't have a lot of what's going on with the don't put these books in your classroom library yet. And we have a lot of people who fiercely advocate for putting the books in the hands of kids so they can see themselves.
Well, you know what? I'm grateful for that. I really, really am. I'm in Texas, and it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah,
Here, unfortunately. But the light that I see in all of it, it creates an opportunity
yep,
for conversations.
yep,
Regardless of what side of the aisle that you're on, if we don't open the doors, for us to be able to sit down and talk, it'll never happen, and we'll continue to be misinformed either way, right?
yep,
So I've kind of embraced the confrontation because, like I said, it gives me that chance to sit down with someone if they're willing. And for the most part, the conversations that I've had, people have been willing, and we've been able to walk away with a better understanding of one another.
that's great.
And I'm appreciative of that. It's not always that way. I've been to conferences where that's been a fear, especially library conferences that I've been to. But once people open their minds and their hearts, to what's really being said instead of listening to what everybody else is saying,
Yep,
you know, um, I mean, seriously, people are constantly looking for the negative, and I always say, look, you can't, you know, play around in the garbage and complain that it stinks. If you're looking for something negative, you're always going to find something negative. But that's not always the case. If you're constantly listening to the news or watching what social media is saying.
no. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing the 10 different ways that teachers could consider trying for
Mhm.
connecting with their kids to authors.
Okay, yeah, I can't wait for that. Well, you've got one more.
I do. That's my spicing up. Nope, that's not mine.
Nope, nope, nope. So that is not yours. This is yours.
No, that's spicing up your professional life with Wakelet.
That is correct.
Yep,
So, a lot of people are familiar with Wakelet.
yep.
I remember Wakelet when they first began, and trying things out and spreading the word, but they have grown immensely,
Huge.
since that beginning. So, let me just ask you personally, what is it about Wakelet that you love?
You know, I love it for me because it's a way for me to stop emailing myself articles when I see them and
You do
right?
that?
And I'm like, "Oh, that's good." No, but, and I also love it because it's ways to network and showcase, like, curating with a hashtag, right? And I love it for students, and I don't show it to my kids until the end of the year because they're still learning all the Googlies goodness stuff that's out there. So I
Mhm.
show it to them in preparation for middle school because for them, when they're doing research projects, it's a great way for them to put everything they're doing for a research project in one place. They can take their notes on it, they can put videos, pictures, they can do Flipgrid videos to share their own reflections. It's just they're connecting with so many other tools too to bring in the different multiple intelligences of kids to be able to showcase their work. But I really found a niche for it, which is what I'm going to be talking about is who reads your 10-page CV or resume when you're applying for jobs? Absolutely no one. But you can combine all the work you do into separate wakelets and put links right in your CV or resumes.
A Wakelet as a CV. Now, first of all, if you got a 10-page CV, you guys, you need to rethink how you format your
Right?
resume on the for real. On the for real. Okay, so I like that idea. There's many ways to use Wakelet,
Yep.
at least in my experience. But there's something powerful about curation.
Yep.
And I think that's the basis, of what we're teaching the kids. Can you speak on, the benefits of teaching kids at this age to curate?
So kids really don't know how to do that at the beginning, right? Like
Right.
they're not sure about that. So I teach it through this project. I don't know if you're familiar with the Who Would Win books, but it's two animals that face off against each other. And at the end, there's this checklist for who would win, but they're literally doing an animal research project. So it's
Oh,
two kids, and each kid has their own wakelet. And then when they're going through and they find, like, National Geographic, and, maybe they do a Kittle search and find something, and they're looking up something in Wikipedia. What do you do with all that? And then how do you synthesize all that information? And then I even learned through my doctoral research, like, what do you do when you have to go back, right? You have to remember that resource. So everything is in one place. But what I love about not only curating the idea with web links is you can curate with images and video too to tell a story.
hmm.
And curating things actually tells a story,
Okay.
I think, in a bigger way, right? So like we do this thing called hashtag positive sign Thursday. And it's literally a paper sign with a positive message. And if you run the search on Twitter, you will see schools all over the country holding up these signs with kids.
What's the hashtag again?
Hashtag positive sign Thursday. You talk about SEL earlier. There you go. So my kids, I have two social media ambassadors. They actually write the positive signs this year. But it's just a way to promote positivity online. And then what I started doing was curating them all because the kids wanted to see who else in the world is doing it. Well, you can't in every week, right? So you could run a Twitter search and just go through, the giant scroll. But if you curate all the tweets of people who do it, which is what I started doing, and then tweet that out, all you have to do is go into the Wakelet and see the positive signs for each week.
I love that. I had not seen that. Of course, I'm pulling it up.
Yep.
Some
There
of
you
the
go.
images. Wow. So each third, oh, look at all of this.
Look at that. Yeah, that's my friend Marty.
Wow. Okay. This is
Yeah.
something I'm definitely, if I can get out of here, something definitely I'm going to have to jump into. This can, my wheels are just turning right now.
Yeah.
What you could turn this into.
So yeah, one of the things I'm going to be talking about in my session is how to do exactly this, right? You have a hashtag on Twitter that has a lot of meaning to people. So why can't you showcase this with other educators and encourage them to network and do it with their kids? It
Yeah.
literally is it's free. It's a piece of paper.
And you're curating this all in one place,
Yep.
allowing people to go to one spot to be able to find all the information that they
Yep.
actually
And
need.
it documents the process over time,
Yeah, I
which is
love
what
that.
curating allows you to do.
Yeah. So like I said, I remember it from the get go. I can't remember what we had in place when we did all these Twitter chats, and we had to collect all the information from the threads and put it in one spot. What was it that we used to use?
I mean, I saw somebody do it in a PDF the other day, so I don't know what they're
Oh, for
doing.
real?
Yeah, I was like, oh, I don't know
Well,
if I'm on
but
that.
they left. I want to say it was Storify. Maybe it was something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was Storify, and then Storify left, and we didn't have a way to curate, the Twitter chat so we can put it back out for people to read. Because how you can look up a hashtag and you're going to get a whole bunch of stuff,
Right, but this is nice.
within there. And well, that was the easy way to do it, and that's where Wakelet snuck its way into the door.
Yeah,
Was replacing Storify, at that particular time, but they captured the true power of what curation is,
yeah,
and it tied very, very, very well into media literacy, which is something I like to talk a lot about, and fact checking. And this is
yeah,
kind of how we dove into to where we had people fact checking other people's wakelets to ensure that there was always the right resources. There was primary resources being used and things of that nature. For fifth graders to have those type of
well, right,
conversations.
and then you can set it up right through Google Classroom, so then I can see what the kids are using as
Yeah.
resources too, to make sure that what they're using is A-okay.
Gotcha. Love it. I love it. I'm looking forward to. I will try to pop into one of those
Yeah,
sessions.
and if not, I hope I get to meet you there.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you see
Uh,
me, grab me.
yeah, absolutely. So
I move a
what?
lot slower than I used to, but I still move.
It is all good. The last time I was at ISD, I broke my leg, so I was
Oh,
moving
yeah.
kind of slow then. So it's all good. So, what are the days of your session like for this one?
Spice Up Your Professional Life with Wakelet is on Wednesday, and the other two are um, playgrounds or posters. Sorry,
Poster
the
sessions.
other two
Okay.
are poster sessions on Tuesday. But the Wakelet one, they just changed from a half-hour snapshot to an hour interactive.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna have
So
people
I'll be
build
showing
build
people
some
actually
buckets.
how to spice it up and do it.
Okay, love
And
it.
then the other two are going to be posters. One is like earlier, like 1 o'clock, and the other, the melting away your classrooms, I believe, is at 5 CST.
Okay, wow, should be an exciting time. Yeah, are you ready?
Yes, I have my first big conference I have permission to go to from my oncology team. So yes.
Okay.
I just don't know what to pack. They're going to be in that heat dome.
Yeah, well, you're right. However, that's tomorrow's show. I'm going to be talking about what to pack.
Heat dome. Talk about the heat dome with that.
I'm talking about what to pack, because that is essential to understand,
Yeah.
your environment that you're going to be in, the expectations of the day. There's some essential things that you actually need, and then, of course, we're traveling in a very interesting time on these airplanes. So we'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. So before we hop off of you, because I
Yep.
see some of the other guests popping in, I mentioned three things that I've learned are the most important things to me about ISD.
Yep.
What are your three?
Um, God, for me, being at ISTE is the stories, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, some of the best stories have come out of these conferences when you talk to people and really listening, right? You
Yeah,
really have to listen.
yeah,
The connecting and the networking, like you shared earlier. And I also think I actually, we're coming off a really tough school year. I can't speak for every educator, but I can tell you that this was one of the hardest years I've had. And that's with battling cancer in 2 years of a pandemic, right in a row. I always find that when I leave ISTE, I am invigorated and inspired to do new things the following year. And that's pretty impressive considering we're just finishing tomorrow, right? So we go to this conference and I leave feeling like, all right, I'm ready to do something new.
mm, yes. I love that. Let me add on to that, ladies and gentlemen, because many of you are going to feel that same way, but I'm going to encourage you right now, don't put it back in your bag the moment you get home.
No,
Make sure that you leave it out, you visit it while you're still enjoying your summer vacation, and adhere to it. Find a way to implement what you're learning immediately, because many times, and that was be honest with you, this is my ninth ISTE, right? And
oh, mine too.
yeah, and I've presented several times over the years, and that was always my hang up is I didn't have that follow up with people, during the year to ensure that they were, applying, what it is that we were able to have some great conversations around. But I saw even in myself when I began on the learning journey at ISTE is that, I had so much and there was so much information overload that I never did a brain dump either, to dump all of this new knowledge that I had to figure out how to apply it based on the relationships that I was building in my classroom with my students. So I encourage people to be intentional about that particular piece. But I want to say something real quick. I think I have to put you on my hero list
Oh, God.
because in the green room we had the conversation about what you were going through, what you have been going through during this particular time, and you have not stopped smiling this entire time of this conversation.
No,
So to go through what you've gone through and during a pandemic, my goodness, I have to applaud you.
thank you. I
And
love what I do.
see, and that's the key. You love what you do. Tell the people why you love what you do.
Oh my God, it's something new every day, right? I get to get up and do what I enjoy. And until it stops, I'm going to still do it because it's fun, right? It's not work. Kevin Carroll talks a lot in his Rules of the Red Rubber Ball about play and about the importance of play and about chasing our red rubber ball. And education's been my red rubber ball that I just keep running after. I learn something new every day, and
Yeah.
I'm a better person because of it.
Wow. See, and this is what our show is about, making learning addictive. When you become addicted to learning,
That's it.
it becomes a part of your everyday regular life and you fall in love with learning for learning's sake.
Yes. Well,
You
thank you
know,
for having me.
I don't know. Thank you for coming on. I can't wait to see you. When do you come in?
I am leaving. I'm going to be there Friday morning.
Friday morning? Oh, you get there super early.
Booked a food tour for Saturday.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
Well,
Come on
you be careful. Make sure you don't eat too much because
now.
I've done a food tour before in New Orleans and food was disappointing when I came back home,
Right.
to say the
Only live
least.
once.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for joining
Thank
us,
you.
and I hope to see you soon.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, that was Doctor. I didn't call you. You just, well, actually, you're still on. You just got your doctorate. Is that correct?
Yes, I finished while I was going through chemo in the pandemic. And if I told you what my study was on, you might fall off your chair, but I'll give you the abridged version. I started in 2015, and I was trying to prove that if the world ever shut down, veteran elementary teachers were not going to be ready to handle the technology necessary to teach kids. And then it happened, and I had to go back to the IRB to actually find out if I could re-interview my people about how they handled the pandemic.
You're clairvoyant.
Well, I was trying to figure out what they'd need for if that ever happened, and now I know what they'd need, but it was like a little too late.
Well,
But they still need what I found.
Okay.
We
Awesome.
can talk about that another time.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely. All right, actually, we were waiting on Tracy's crew. I see Tracy in the green room. Tracy, are you still there? I don't know if she's still there, or not. We'll be talking to Tracy's. She has a couple of people that she's presenting with here at ISTE, and I have a very interesting title. So while we wait on Tracy's crew to come in, Raina, a lot of people that I talk to nowadays struggle with getting their presentations accepted.
Yep.
Do you have any tips on that particular process?
I think you have to be your most authentic self and your authentic voice and not try to like wordsmith it too much. I just tend to write from the heart. And I'm often one that says if somebody doesn't want me to share this, then it's okay. Cause then I don't want to share it there if they don't want it. Right. I mean, there was one that got rejected that I did. It was about gaming and education. Right. So like, there's no rhyme or reason as to why some get accepted and some don't, but I really talk from the heart. And I also try not to be so tool focused.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. So like more of the pedagogy behind what I'm doing. So the author spicing up your life with Wakelet. Catchy titles sometimes get you. I've heard that there is a title. My friend Leo told me that there's a website to actually come up with conference titles. So I tend to do them myself. I think they should be kind of what it is you're talking about, but maybe a little playful.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, one, I appreciate you talking about the rejection.
Yep.
I tell people all the time that I submitted a session one time about what we're doing right now, using video to connect with other people,
Yeah.
For live streaming. This was about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
It was rejected. Look where we are now.
Well, I can tell you on the other side, because I run MassQ with a team of people. So we just went through and spent 8 hours going through all the RFPs we got. But anybody who submits something that violates data privacy here in the state of Massachusetts, we can't accept. Like we can't have people talking about Google Data Studio here. They haven't signed the privacy agreement. But if you're going to be talking about collecting student data and maybe it's a small piece of it, that's one thing. But when you're focused on something that we can't necessarily say all teachers do this because they haven't signed the SDPs here, then we don't feel comfortable having somebody talk about that. So it could be something like that. So I always say to people when they're doing an RFP and there's data privacy involved, that I know we always look for like DEI and SEL and like things that should be embedded into sessions. And I think ISTE's done a nice job of that because there are some strands that they've added in the last couple of years.
Okay. That's definitely something to think about. That's a good tip there.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, once again, thank you.
You're welcome.
For sharing today.
With your next guest.
All right, thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and shift to our next guest. I think we're going to have 2 out of the 3 of the crew that's coming on, but we've got Tracy Rowley coming on. We're talking about Start with Cats. You're talking about catchy titles. I was like, okay, that automatically makes you curious about what this session is all about. And so we'll get a chance to talk about that here right now. With Tracy.
Okay, Brian?
You are okay. Can you hear me?
I do. Oh, I'm so excited to be joining you today. Yes. we came up with that title because, like you said, you got to have something catchy that's going to grab people's attention. And my co-presenter Jennifer McKenzie, she's the one who came up with the idea of start with cats, and so we're rolling with it. And meow.
And me, oh, and she gave me the meow. All right, ladies
Yeah,
and
there you
gentlemen,
go.
this is going to be interesting. Okay, so my immediate thought, when you said start with cats, is it's cat videos. We've
Yeah.
seen so many movies and commercials, dealing with just watching cats and how mesmerizing that actually can be. Was that the premise, for what you guys were trying to do? Since you're talking about virtual opportunities.
Yes, actually, it comes from my co-presenter. She actually started having virtual experiences and going into the local humane society, and they were meeting, having the kids read with cats and walking through the shelter and seeing the cats, and they actually showed that they were adopting cats at record levels. And so that's how she started, with a selfie stick and her iPhone on a selfie stick, and taking the kids on tours of the local shelter. And the first place she went was to a cat shelter.
So we're talking physical cats.
Yes, yes, yes. So
Okay, you can tell I'm a little shocked.
so this year, I copied her, and we went to our local a no-kill cat shelter, and I held my little trusty Surface Pro, and we took the kids on a tour of the cat shelter, and it was on National Read to Me Day. And so then I'm not kidding you, Brian, we had 1,200 kids, all of their teachers joining us live. And we went toured the cat shelter, and then we went into the kitten room, and we read "If You Give a Cat a Cookie." And and as we were reading, with all the kittens climbing all over her, there was a black and white kitten that looked just like the kitten in the book, and he was pawing at the book, and it was amazing. And you could hear 1,000 little kids going, "Oh!" And they had a record number of cat adoptions over that next week, because everybody, all their parents, were dragged down to the cat shelter to go
Oh
adopt the cats. So
my
it was
goodness.
fantastic. But what was great, Brian, is that they even talked about how some cats are salty, and we got in a little SEL on there,
Okay.
social emotional learning, because they talked about how some cats wear a red collar, and that means that they're kind of hesitant, and they need a little space, and sometimes they don't know how to control their emotions, and so I thought that was kind of neat, because it's just like us. Sometimes we need a little space, and we need a little time, and the cats do too.
Wow. Okay. All right. So one, I'm learning,
Yeah.
and I love it. That's what the show is all about. But I want to dive a little into the tagging, of the cat based
Yeah.
on. So I'm not familiar with cats. Uh, my kids know the story that when I got married and moved to France, my wife had a cat that they think I forced her to get rid of,
Oh,
you know,
oh,
named Snickers.
oh.
Snickers
Okay.
was probably the smartest animal that I've ever met. But we had a baby, and Snickers shed a lot, and the baby was crawling
Oh.
crawling around. So that was the reason. But she won't defend me, at all. So I'm not a ton of familiar with, but the fact that cats have these type of surly personalities,
Mm-hmm.
and are tagged in that particular manner,
Yeah.
we
Who
see.
knew?
I didn't know that at all. So
I didn't either.
I'm curious. For one, because many people go to cats for an SEL um, opportunity, because cats provide a different type of comfort.
Yes.
So
I
one,
don't. I
go ahead.
yeah. I don't think they're taking the red collared cats.
So but however, are there kids who make a connection with the red collar cat?
I from hearing from some of the teachers, there were students who told that that became like I have a red collar too, or I feel like I need a red collar. So
Mm.
some of the students did pick up on that. I thought that was really interesting, and that was not expected.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that would be my
Yeah.
question number two.
Yeah.
So since they did pick up on that, and as Rain and I talked about, SEL has
Hmm.
become something that I'm passionate about now, and
Hmm.
I've dedicated a show a month to mental health awareness and social emotional learning. But for those kids who made that identification, did they find themselves opening up to talk a little bit more about it?
Wow, that's interesting. I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to ask some of their teachers. That would be an interesting follow-up to that. Absolutely.
I think it would.
I think so too.
That's a way in
Hmm.
and a way out for them.
Hmm.
Oh my,
Hmm.
oh my goodness. I mean, why is everybody making me think tonight?
Well,
Okay.
and that's the power, Brian. That's the power of these virtual experiences. There's so many places where you can go for these amazing virtual field trips, and you can take kids to places literally all over the world. And previous, you were bound by where you lived and how
Yeah.
much money your school had if they could pay for the bus, and could you, or for guest speakers, could people come into your school in the middle of the day and take off from work and come in? But with these kind of virtual experiences, we are literally leveling the playing ground, because now teachers and students are not limited by where they live or who can come in. You can open up the world to them. Counselors can be bringing people in to talk with students. You can be taking students to these really special experiences, and you've leveled the playing field. You've increased accessibility for students to be able to just see things that are outside of the norm for them. And that's the beauty, and that's what we're going to be talking about when we go to ISTE.
Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned a very important word in your title, community.
Hmm.
So can you speak to both ends of that community aspect to what you're
Oh,
doing?
yes, absolutely. You can take students to go around the community. Maybe you can't afford that school bus because, right now, well, that's before gas prices went up. It's $350 in my school district to get a bus.
Wow.
$350. But what
Wow.
if you want to just, go tour the wastewater plant, or you want to go to the cat shelter, or you want to go to the fairgrounds? People can't do that kind of thing anymore. And so now you can bring the community into the classroom. But what about guest speakers? You're doing career day, or you're doing a read to me day. And we've had classrooms where they have, grandmas at home cooking with the students from her kitchen, and
Mhm.
all you gotta have is just you could have a cell phone or a surface, anything with a camera, and
Right.
now you're in grandma's kitchen and she's cooking with the students from her house, which is 5 states away.
Yeah.
Or you could have, I saw a teacher's aunt, or I'm sorry, her sister called in and read to the kids for National Read to Me Day.
Mhm.
And so you're bringing the community into the classroom, and now you're not limited by that bus trip or where you live.
Right, right. So with that, what the other thing you're doing is you're shrinking the world,
Yes.
for our students.
Absolutely.
Do you concentrate on building a sense of community within the classroom based on these particular experiences as well?
I think you absolutely can. I think it depends on the classroom and like the age of the kids and what your subjects are, but you absolutely can bring the community into the classroom. There's a wonderful website called Skype a Scientist. And so our students can talk with a scientist in the field about what they've been doing or seeing or what they've been studying. And now they're bringing that person into the classroom to see, to talk about all of the things that they've learned, and um, they're sharing it with an expert in the field. So now think about that community that you're building for those students, I've heard students say, hey, that scientist looks just like me. I can be a scientist too. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can. And we never would get that before, because you're limited to who could come into the classroom.
I mean, I love it. I mean, these are things that were near and dear to me when I was in the classroom, and my various roles in education. Uh,
Hmm.
these are things I miss. I really do, and I miss actually talking about it as well. So, you and our guest before, Raina, she has a session, similar to this, about breaking down these walls and exposing our
Hmm.
kids to those opportunities that are out there. So, what grade levels are you typically working with?
I have seen it from everything from kindergartners to AP science students. who are juniors in high school. And what's cool is there's so many different places you can go for virtual field trips, for virtual experiences. I mean, you could just go with your families and people in your school. But you can also, there's a lot of Flipgrid has virtual experiences.
Yep.
CILC, the Center for Interactive Content, Explore by the Seat of Your Pants. There,
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard of them. They're
Yes.
amazing. They're, golly, what they offer for kids. Oh my goodness, it's just amazing. And there's so many different opportunities for all different age groups. And we have kids they're meeting celebrities.
To them, yes.
Well, you know what? We even had my supervisor. His brother-in-law is a world famous makeup artist. Like, this man has worked on Beyonce and
Okay.
on Vice President Harris, and he was a groundbreaker in the field of makeup for women of color. And so we had him join us, and
Wow.
he's talking about how just like he was working on Beyonce's makeup just the week before, and but then so it could be that kind of community again, or even just jumping on Flipgrid where they had Dr. Jane Goodall, and we had little kindergartners
Yeah,
who were
yeah,
bragging.
yeah.
They're bragging to their parents that they met Dr. Goodall. I mean,
Yes.
that,
Yes.
it's amazing. But so Sam Fine, who was the person I talked about, he was talking with our theater classes at all of our high schools
Nice.
about the business, going into
Yes.
the business.
And that could catapult that kid to that
Who
next
knows?
step. Right, exactly. They would have not known that there are possibilities without this opportunity. Oh
Yep.
my goodness, my heart is just full today.
It's
Already.
amazing. Mhm.
I miss this part of education. I really do. I do think that the pandemic has presented a whole lot more
Yes.
opportunities for this.
Absolutely.
I've seen people use things like a Nearpod to create virtual field trips.
Yes, Nearpod has a lot. Yes,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they actually partner with 360 Cities and have over
they
350,000
do.
places you can actually send people. Actually, my son did his college tours via Nearpod.
Really?
Yes, because we couldn't go physically to those places. So having an opportunity to be able to be on the campus without actually being on the campus
Right.
saved me a ton of money, by the
Right,
way.
and now you just made that more accessible for more students to be
Yeah,
able to tour that. Yep, and we actually
absolutely.
do feature a Nearpod during we're in the poster session, so Nearpod's one of the content providers that we will be featuring. Yes, there's so
Okay.
many different places that people can go to bring in these virtual experiences into their classroom,
Okay.
and it can be free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I may have to
Yes.
tell Nearpod that so they can swing by and
Now, of
get
course,
you.
that's true. Nearpod does have a cost for the premium license, but
That is
but
correct. But
yeah,
there's
but
a ton you can do for that in that free license.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yes, indeed.
yes.
Well, I know some folks at Nearpod, so you might throw some swag your way.
Yeah, we love Nearpod. Nearpod's been a game changer for my school district. It really has. We purchased it, and we've really, it's been a true, especially like you said, with COVID and having the students at home. Nearpod was a real game changer. But a lot of people are still using it today.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
indeed. I'm actually going to bring Raina back in here,
Sure.
because you both are presenting something, but I'm fascinated with the cat still.
Yeah,
Yes.
but we talked about a lot of similar things because I mentioned Skype a Scientist too, and I heard she said something. Tracy, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Oh, Tracy meet Raina meet
Hi,
Tracy.
Raina.
Okay, so the cat. So all right, so do you go to see dogs?
We have, yes, absolutely. Yeah, we can go to the Humane Society and go tour the shelter, and so there's the sky's the limit of where you can go, because really all you need is somebody with a phone to call, and you set up a Zoom link or a Teams link. And by the way, Raina, I use Wakelet we put all of our stuff into a Wakelet.
There we go.
Learned about that at ISTE a few years ago. Love Wakelet, but we put all of that in there. But yeah, all you need is somebody with their cell phone, and they can walk around the tour. They walk around the shelter, and again, you're bringing that community into the classroom, because now students will feel like, hey, I feel like I've been there, and I know what it looks like. And maybe you're breaking down some of those barriers, some of that fear. And who knows, you might adopt a few dogs that somebody will see while they're making touring around the Humane Society.
I just love that, that twofold, benefit.
Yeah, they have. We've heard from people. They've had record numbers of adoptions after we've gone to their facilities.
Okay. Well, I want to jump back to the opportunity
Hmm.
piece. One of the things that years back, I want to say it's about 2000 and when did I leave over there? 10, 11-ish, maybe. Uh, Google used to do, well, actually, we all used to do bring your child to work day,
Yes.
right? And here in Texas, because of attendance, they kind of got rid of that. So, we tried to point out how important that was for these kids to be exposed to these career opportunities. Just as Raina mentioned earlier, not
Hmm.
everybody's going to take that, collegiate, path. They're going to go into the workforce or into the military, whatever the case may be. But that exposure is so, so critical. One year I partnered with Google to bring our kids to different workplaces.
Hmm.
So we got a chance to meet a ramen chef, who the gentleman who created the first ramen burger in
Oh,
in
that's cool.
in New York. We got a chance to talk to the people who developed the snow for the Winter Olympics when it was in Provo. When it didn't snow as much as they wanted it to snow, they developed this material that was just
Hmm.
like skiing on snow. And to this day, and we also went to the Washington Post. Now, I currently have a former student who works currently for the Washington Post, and she was in that particular classroom and was enamored ever since. She always loved words, but being able to see how you can apply that to what it is that they were learning in an everyday manner was amazing. And I kind of want to
Hmm.
speak to you. I want you both to speak to that importance once again. Arena, I know we talked a little
Hmm.
bit about it. As we close out, why this is so important to that particular piece.
Go ahead.
Well, I think you said it exactly right, Ryan. So because bringing people into the classroom, you were always limited by who could drive down and sign in and come in. But now that person that you talked about who could be in Provo, Utah, and like I'm here in Tucson, Arizona. I can bring them into my classroom and they can talk and they can take kids on the tour of where they're working, where you never used to be able to do that before. So now again, you're bringing that community in the classroom and you're showing students, hey, it's possible. You can do this too. Here's somebody right here, and it's more meaningful and tangible. So you really are increasing accessibility for your students. And you just totally encapsulated why I believe so strongly in this topic.
And the other piece too is you never know who your students know either. So how empowering is it for the kids, right? To be able to say, hey, I have this uncle who does this. You
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
made me realize that when you were talking about the opportunity there. I had a student whose uncle created the Museum of Food and Drink in the city of New York. And
Wow.
they do flavored, like they're the ones who take the things in the eyedroppers and make things taste like berry, right? Like they nail these flavors. This guy came and the kid brought in little kits that he worked with his uncle on, so all the kids could like go around with the eyedropper and the flavoring in the classroom. I mean, it doesn't have to be just you watch. Like there could be things sent to you. The Spy Museum in Washington D.C. does a bunch of virtual field trips and actually sends pre-packaged like coding things for the kids to do hands-on, right? So not only are they being passive consumers, but they're also being active learners, and that's really what you want. And I'll be honest, they don't want to hear from me all day. And like I said earlier, I'm not the expert on everything. So if
Right.
I can at least bring someone in who is, you never know which kid you're going to reach with that.
Yeah. Love it. You got to take that chance, though, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. Got to take that chance. My favorite one was M&M Mars. Got a chance to virtually tour the factory where they coat the M&Ms
Oh, that's
down in
cool.
Hackettstown, New Jersey, and also got the tour of the Starburst plant, the one in Waco. So they got to see fresh Starburst come right off the line.
Yeah.
And then what M&M Mars did, that they sent the kids a box of all the products that they actually made.
Oh, that's
So they
cool.
each got to take one of those home. I got a couple of those boxes still here, So those type of experience, you never know. They didn't
Mhm.
realize that, food agricultural engineers work on this
Yeah.
projects along with nutritionists and different sciences and business and project management and you just open their eyes and their minds to, oh my goodness, there's so many things that I can do. And now that you're connected it to something I'm passionate
Yep.
about, now I know how to get there, and you
Hmm.
create their opportunity to dream. And we're
Yep.
missing a lot of that
And not
in our
everybody can
classrooms.
afford to travel and go and do and leave their town, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And now with the pandemic, I think it might be safe to say that at least every classroom has at least one computer, right? So
Hmm.
assuming that, and I don't want to assume everyone does, but I'm kind
right.
of guessing everyone had to when they were teaching virtually somehow. So if every classroom has just one, all of this can be done with one computer. All the kids don't need devices for these experiences.
Right. Right. Indeed, indeed. Well, I want to thank you both for coming on. I know we had a couple of guests that couldn't show. Monday's a crazy day. I'm not worried about it, at all. We'll be here all week, bringing on special guests for opportunities to share what they're actually going to be talking about at ISD. This was great. I'm so excited. I can't wait to be able to jump in your sessions. I will add, at least one of your sessions, to
Right.
my schedule. I know I'm going to be super busy, while I'm
Well, I
there.
look forward to it, Brian. I'm presenting on Tuesday. I'm doing a poster session. So.
Oh,
Okay,
and what
excellent.
time is your poster? We might be doing it at the same time.
Oh no, I am at 11 o'clock.
Oh no, I'm at 1. Okay.
Perfect. I will make sure. I will make sure I come over and see you.
See,
Yes.
that's what we do here. We connect folks as well.
Yes. Yes.
As I said in the beginning, it's the learning, the network, and the people with the relationship that you're able to
Yes.
build at a conference here like ISTE. So I look forward to seeing you, ladies and gentlemen. I look forward
Thank
to
you.
also seeing you there. Once again, we'll be here all week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with special presenters. We'll have some vendors on as well throughout the rest of the week. We'll also be talking about some of the events that are happening after, the sessions, during the day. So Flip Fest is taking place. We'll also have the EdTech Poetry Slam and a couple of other events, like one of my favorites, EdTech Karaoke. I got robbed a couple of years ago, but we're not going
Uh-oh.
to talk about that, anyway.
Okay. Okay.
Moving on. So, ladies and gentlemen, please be sure to join us for the rest of the week as we all get ready for ISTE Live 22. It has been an honor and a pleasure. I always appreciate the love and support. Remember, take at least 30 minutes a day to learn something new. That way, learning becomes addictive and you fall in love with learning for learning's sake. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.